Beyond
3D. Good Saturday evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Beyond 3D. Matt and Clint sitting here in Studio 2 at RWP 98.7, 98.3, hoping you all had a fantastic week. So, Clint, how have you been?
Good evening, Matthew.
How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. We're all still here at this point in time.
We are indeed.
Fantastic and lucky to be alive.
Yes, we are lucky to be alive, considering what's going on in the world.
I'm going to put a moratorium right now. I apologise on behalf of Beyond 3D and Matt and myself. We do get caught up from time to time in the machinations and the ridiculousness of he who shall not be named, Senior Orange. Let's put a cap on him tonight, please.
Yes, I agree.
Our feedback has been that we prattle on too much about him, but the thing is, he does so many stupid things.
I agree. But we will do that tonight. And so, therefore, the email I received from Investors Business Daily talking about certain things on the inside, we will not mention at all. We'll talk about other things tonight. That'll be fun.
Oh, can I just also say, happy retirement to FBI Director Comey?
That's a very nice way of putting it. Happy retirement, and I hope you enjoy your retirement away from the confines of that kind of stuff that you had to deal with before. It'll be worth it for you. You can relax and enjoy yourself for a bit.
Let's turn lemons into lemonade. Let's turn lemons into lemonade for Director Comey.
Yeah, well, here's the thing that he should do, and let's go back to that old sage Lao Tzu and how to live an inspired and peaceful life. And I was reading this week because I thought it was very, very good, and there are 4 main points that are gone over.
Hit me.
The first point, reverence for all life.
Sounds good. Having respect for everything.
Respect for everything, unconditional love and respect for all living creatures on this plane of existence.
Everything is made of atoms.
Yeah.
Every single thing in this reality is made of...
and inanimate.
And inanimate. Everything's made of atoms.
Absolutely.
Respect the atom.
There you go. That's a good way of putting it as well. Natural. Number 2, natural sincerity, authenticity, remembering the karmic consequences of things.
If you came to if somebody turned around and said to you that karma is 100% exactly what it is, and you knew it, you would really check yourself before you wrecked yourself.
You would.
Every single time.
You most certainly would, because what goes around comes around, as they say.
I have a saying, and it is, if it's not helpful or coming from a place of love, don't ever say it.
Fair enough. Well, I won't go into that now. Number 3.
Well, hang on a minute. You can give somebody negative feedback, and it can still be helpful.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
It can still be helpful.
That's true. And there are times when little white lies can actually be to someone's benefit as well. You can look at it from both sides of it.
If somebody was drinking the toilet water in a shared house, you'd have to pull them aside and go, listen, that's not healthy.
Yeah, fair enough. Number 3.
I don't know why I just said that. I was just thinking of one of my friends.
Number 3, gentleness.
I pause when I hear you say that because I was reflecting. I was just reflecting.
Right. Forgiveness, acceptance.
It's all the same stuff.
All those stuff, yeah. And 4th and most important, supportiveness for everybody that's around you.
I'm here for you, Matt.
Exactly. This is what it comes down to. So Director Comey can practice Lao Tzu's virtues, and that can make his life a heck of a lot better.
I hope he does.
I hope he does as well, because, that's life.
He was put in a situation where he was damned if he did and damned if he didn't in regards to doing his job.
Yeah.
He did his job on Hillary, he did his job on He Who Shall Not Be Named, and he's been thrown to the wolves.
He has. And so, what else is new? That is what happens when you deal with the mundane world, as opposed to the spirit beings that we are, and just having an experience here. We get too hung up on the ceremony, so to speak, as opposed to what the ceremony represents. It's a catalyst. So, that being said, I thought this week I wanted to just go over a couple of basic things that everybody really needs to start doing if they're not doing it already. And I think it's very important. Most of us do a lot of spiritual reading. Clint, I know you and I do a lot of reading when we get the opportunity. And I've done a heck of a lot in my lifetime. So one of the things that I think is very important, so we'll go over it a little bit, is...
I almost forgotten how.
Oh, no, you haven't. It's like riding a bike. Get on there, just get going. In Hinduism, you always talk about the 4 ages. So going backward from where we are now. So you have the Kali Yuga, which we're in now, the Iron Age, which is not very nice. You then have Dwapara, Tretya, and Satya, which is the Golden Age.
Hang on. And what's this age called that we're in now?
Kali.
Yeah, but what does it represent?
Kali, the goddess of real nasty meanness.
No, but you called it something else.
The Iron Age.
The Iron Age. Yeah. And then you go back one and it's the what age?
Bronze.
The Bronze, okay.
And then Silver. And then
I figured that's where you were headed.
So when you get back to that Golden Age of the Satya Yuga, there are books out there. Now, there's a book that was written a long time ago. I will find it and put a link up to it on the Facebook page. It's called Metu Neter. And it's by Nefer Appen Raman, and it is not ramen noodles, ramen. That's the name of it.
I wasn't going to say ramen noodles.
Yeah. And so this book delves a lot into Egyptology, Egyptian spiritual beliefs and teachings. Mm-hmm. And one of the things in this book that is mentioned quite often is breathing. Now, some people know Buteyko and all these different breathing techniques that are out there that allow you to really take in prana, for lack of a better term, the air, and really fill your lungs and fill your physical being. It also fills the etheric being, the astral emotional being, the mental being, as well as the causal being. But learning how to breathe properly is a very important thing that we need to do. Now, most of us, if we think about it, when we are out and about, whether it be at work, whether it be studying something, one thing it's an automatic function, or an autonomic function, but basically what's going on is we don't breathe in deeply enough. So, when we wake up in the morning and the sun is rising, that beautiful golden orange sun, what you need to do is just take in 9 deep breaths.
I used to suffer ridiculous insomnia.
Yep.
Ridiculous insomnia. Mm-hmm. That's only because my brain just does not know how to turn off. Mm-hmm. Or let's call that past tense. You talking about breathing and correct breathing, anybody out there is currently suffering insomnia, don't do this now. Do this after our show's finished tonight. Best thing to do, lay in bed and slow your breathing down. Slow it down to where it's comfortable and continue it, and you will pass out.
Happens.
You'll pass out. And if you wake up again, do it again, and do it again, and do it again. And now it gets to the point, Matt, where I go to sleep. I'm in mid-fall, and I'm already passing out before my head hits the pillow.
There you go.
I've gone from insomnia to falling asleep before I fall asleep.
Not quite narcolepsy, but...
No, not quite.
But here's the thing. So the breathing is very, very important. So it's that deep guttural breathing and the belly expanding, the stomach expanding, and then drawing that down into the belly and into the lungs. And 9 of those deep breaths. Now that correlates with starting to get into the meditative and the spiritual aspect of things. Now, anybody that's from the Philippines knows, and I won't say the words, teachers give you the words, but there are 3 levels of truth. And each of those levels of truth can be reached through meditations and understanding as well, called Jnana Yoga. Now, those levels can correspond to breathing techniques as well. So, if you can take in 9 deep breaths, so you're at the first level of truth. What you then want to do is alternate your breaths, so all of a sudden you go to 7-1 breathing.
How does that work?
You breathe in for a count of 7, you hold for a count of 1, breathe out for a count of 7, hold for a count of 1.
So hypothetically, I'll play devil's advocate.
Yep.
If you're suffering from some kind of asthma, don't try and push it through to 7.
No.
Just do what's comfortable.
What's comfortable and natural, and you work up to this. And the next series of breaths, the next level, or the third level of truth from that Asian Filipino system would be 6-3 breathing. You breathe in for a count of 6, hold for a count of 3, breathe out for a count of 6, hold for a count of 3.
That's really deep. I don't know that's what we're talking about.
Interesting that you said that is really deep, because all of that ties into Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga. And it ties into all of these ancient systems, and when you look at the correlation between them, you start to recognize what a lot of the old masters were actually trying to get people to do. And I think after we take a break, we can get into exactly what that is.
Hang on, I want to ask you one question first before we take a break.
Okay.
This is not pertain to anybody in particular. I'm just asking because I don't know.
Right.
If you were in bed with your significant other,
Right.
and you are slowing your breathing down like this, is this not some kind of gateway? Is this not breathing exercises a gateway to Tantric?
Different.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Side path.
We'll be back after this break. Beyond.
3, 3, 3.
Welcome back tonight to Beyond 3D. Matt,
Yes.
how old?
We are... Can I go back to what I was about?
You can go back to it.
Cool.
I just had that little thing that popped into my head about
Yeah,
slowing
no,
breathing and tantric sex, because usually when you're in bed with a significant other,
Yes.
if stuff's happening, you're not breathing, you're not sitting there, you're not laying there. You're not laying there counting
Yeah, sheep.
7 in, 3 out.
No. Well, some guys will have to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you, where is this going?
No.
Let's bring it back. But if you're doing it, practicing tantric,
Yeah.
you're really slowing your breathing down, aren't you?
There are breathing exercises that you
all I
can do in
needed to know.
Tantric as well.
That's all I needed to know.
You go to Khajuraho and you can look at the photos. Temples in India.
I knew what you were talking about.
The thing about the breathing exercises is you have 3 levels of truth, but it also pertains to the different yugas. Getting to the golden age. I mentioned earlier a book called Metu Netter. And when people think of a golden age, they think of a time when righteousness ruled the world. There wasn't enough space for negativities per se. But you have to also do the as above, so below thing, as in the macrocosm, as in the microcosm. You have to look at it that way. And the breathing exercises, what you're actually doing when you're doing breathing exercises is you are there is a technique that you are using to reach the different ages, the golden age. In the book Metu Netter, the golden age equates to a certain amount of breaths taken per second. They talk about when a yogi meditates, they slow. We mentioned it earlier. You slow your breathing down to the point where you're in a certain meditative state. That's called the golden age. If you think about 6-3 breathing, if you think about it, just real quick,
Okay.
how many breaths would you be taking in 1 minute?
Really, it's Saturday night. You're going to make me do maths.
3.5.
3.5 breaths.
That would be it.
Okay.
Count in for 6, hold for 3, that's 9 seconds. Breathe out for another 6, what do you have? 15 seconds. Hold for 3, what do you have? 18 seconds. How many times? That's 1 breath, that's 1 full cycle. When you add up a minute, you're doing about 3.5 breaths per minute. You're slowing your breathing down to get to that golden age. That's what they're talking about when they bring up these different ages.
A human body is a human body. Most of them operate the same. Most of them have basic needs.
Yeah.
How much oxygen does the human body need when you're slowing your breathing down this slow? I'm asking this question because surely there's somebody out there tonight hearing you talk about this and pondering on the fact that if a yogi can slow his breath down to the point of what? To the point of stopping life or stopping to that, not hibernation state, what would you call it?
Yeah, it is it's sort of a hibernation
A hibernation
state.
state. The body still needs a certain amount of oxygen
In order to survive.
in order to keep the brain going.
Therefore, it would depend on where you were.
So if you're slowing your breathing down
Yeah.
to a point where you're not feeding the brain the oxygen it needs, consciously, would they be aware of the fact that they were doing that or not?
I believe they would consciously be aware of the fact that they would be able to slow the body down to a point where it would be sustainable
Thank you.
and they can still achieve that meditative state that they need to achieve.
Bizarre question, I know, but
Yeah.
surely somebody out there was thinking that and I just wanted you to answer it for
absolutely.
them.
But then if you think that, you also have to think from the scientific standpoint. The oxygen content in the air isn't as high as it used to be.
No, it's not.
Therefore, depending on where you are, there might be more of an oxygen content. There might be more negative ions coming in off of the water and the different places to support you. It depends on where you are.
So there'd be more oxygen content in the air if you were up in Greenland, where you have cleaner air and all of the phytoplankton and that in the ocean that create
which is why you will
Oxygen?
always find that when you read the old texts, where were people going to meditate? They were going into the mountains, they were going into the forest, they were going in to find these old caves where they could be alone.
I'm going to say in compared to being downtown New York,
Exactly.
where it's, well, China, where it's
Smoggy, and you're trying to compete with how many other millions of people to get that air into your lungs. So it has a dramatic effect. Where you meditate, how you meditate, definitely has an effect on what is going on.
That's why people yawn.
Do you ever know? Now, come on, everybody knows this. Everybody out there knows this. If you were in a car or something like that and you were traveling, one person yawns within about 30 seconds, the other person has to yawn.
My theory on that is that it's the brain subconsciously knowing that you're stealing oxygen from me.
That's it. You're hogging up all the air, therefore I gotta yawn in to hog up more so I can get my cut of the air you just tried to hog. That's exactly what's going on when it comes to that stuff. That's at least the way it seems. It always happens, but this is what's going on. So, breathing exercises are a necessary thing that we all must do on a daily basis. Now, I know it can sound very... what's the word? Lethargic. It can be monotonous, laborious, but a little bit a day. Just a little bit.
Just do it while you're driving.
Yeah.
Actually, no, don't do it while you're driving. You might fall asleep.
No. You can do it in such a way. Here's what I would say.
Depends on how tired you
9
were.
deep breaths in the morning when you wake up are really good. During the daytime, you would never do 6-3 breathing unless you're actually sitting to meditate. You're going to do a 7-1 type of a breathing. Or the shortcut of that, 4-1, if you're not a deep breather to begin with. So you can do those kinds of things during the day and just take a minute to concentrate, and your intent is to do that. So if you can do that, it's actually pretty good.
I love the fact that 15 minutes into the show tonight, we're still talking about breathing. It's
Well,
great.
there you go. So the ages, the way those ages correlate to breathing, it's all that system that keeps this system, which houses our spirit, working properly in this light frequency, as we so call it. I think that's very important. Another thing that's important is... When we all get up
you're important,
When we all get up in the morning, do yourself a favor, if you can see the horizon in the east and you get that beautiful orange morning sunrise, go outside and just for 1 second look at it and blink.
Can I say, is this light drinking?
Yes.
Through the eyes?
Through the eyes.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes. Do that every morning and then just watch that after image and let it float around and see. And what starts to happen is first you see that black dot, and then all of a sudden it starts to have green and purple hues around it, and you start to see all these things. You're training your third eye to be able to clairvoyantly see.
Not just that particular type of light is incredibly beneficial to the human body.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it's beneficial to the pineal gland as well in the brain. And those are the things that truly matter. The other thing you got to do, and I know people are going to hem and haw over this, but as far as I'm concerned, certain supplements have to be taken. Certain supplements have to be taken, and one of the things the body does not make is vitamin C. So therefore, you're going to have to find a source.
I've checked myself over. I don't have any.
No. Oh well. You're going to have to find something like that that'll help you in the morning. The other thing, and a couple of quick tidbits in the morning, the other thing I used to do, my dad did this every morning, lemon juice and warm water. First thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are into the apple cider vinegars and stuff like that.
Yes.
In warm water.
Apple cider vinegar. That'll put hair on your chest.
I tell you what, yeah. But it also helps, and my wife was saying this, it also helps when it comes to fat burning. So all the people out there that want to get rid of a few of the pounds, that's another thing you can do. And the other thing is, and this is harder for some people, but for others it's not, a very nice splash of cold water on the face first thing in the morning, doesn't matter what the temperature is.
Just turn off, super glue your hot water tap in the shower. Shut.
Just slap it on the face, and that totally wakes you up and makes you more alert in the morning.
Cold shower.
No. Some people can't go that route.
Why?
Why? Because you're free. You jump, you freeze, you slip in the shower, you crack your head open. What happens?
Stop. It's like saying a hot shower. Oh, I slip in the shower because the water's hot. Temperature's got nothing to do with your mechanics.
You don't think so?
No.
So you just yell out at the top of your lungs when the water's too cold?
I don't believe that hot showers are good for you.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, that's the old question. Is it easier to cool down when it's hot out, or is it easier to warm up when it's cold out?
Let's ask that question a different way. Can you get cold by embracing another human being and lower your temperature? Living. can you reduce your body temperature by embracing another human being?
Depending on the human being you're embracing, it might make you horny or
not mother-in-laws. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about, look, you asked that question and I gave you the flip side of the coin, so let me flip the coin over. Mm-hmm. If you embrace another human being, you can raise your body temperature. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Fair enough.
If you embrace another human being, I don't believe you can reduce your body temperature. So when you ask that question, I believe it's easier to get warm than it is to cool down.
So you think it is easier to warm up than it is to cool down?
I think our bodies are designed naturally for fight or flight, and adrenaline does increase your body temperature. So I think naturally it's easier to get warmer and a lot harder to cool down.
I'm thinking.
I love it when I can throw you a curveball.
Winter, cold outside, come in, yep, warm up. Summer, hot outside.
If you don't have a significant other, hug the dog.
Yeah, the dog.
The dog will warm you up, but the dog can't cool you down.
Fair enough. I agree. No, I agree. I'm thinking about it in my head and I'm going, yeah, if it's a nice 60 degree below day in Chicago and you're outside freezing your nuts off and then you come inside and you can get warm quite quickly. There are many things that can do that for you. If it's 110 degrees in the shade and you come inside and you try to cool down, it is a lot harder.
I think I just answered the question.
It is a lot harder.
But this is just our opinions. We have no scientific data to back that up except experience.
Which is better than scientific data in most cases.
My word on how to get cool, how to heat up, is just my opinion. And we'll be back after this break. Beyond 3D.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Beyond 3D. Matt and Clint here. Guys, check out our Facebook page that is on that ever-popular Facebook.
Beyond
3D.
That's it.
Fair enough. And website coming quite soon, which will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, hang on. You say a lot of fun. It hasn't been a lot of fun for me.
Well, it's never fun when you're setting it up. Once it's up and running, it's a lot of fun. Come on. It's got to be, hasn't it?
It's quite remarkable, actually, to sit down and look at the backlog, the catalogue of stuff that we've covered is insane.
Oh, it's fun.
And if you've just jumped on board to our show in the last couple of weeks, when this website drops, you are going to be in for a treat because we have 3 years worth of shows, Matt, about 80 shows in total.
Yeah.
To this day.
A lot
of shows and a lot of content.
A lot. So you're going to enjoy that. But yeah, we're going to put a few things up on the Facebook page this week.
Now I can't wait to unleash that on the world. And
fun.
Segue. Can I say welcome home
to
X-37B?
Oh yes. How many days was it away?
718.
Oh.
Not almost, but kind of 2 years. Not quite 2 years.
What was it doing all that time?
Nobody knows.
Interesting.
Well, look, it's returned to Earth from its, and I'll do the inverted commas, secret mission in orbit, which is said to have lasted a record-breaking 718 days.
Right.
Touchdown, NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, just the other day. And been up there for quite some time, but nobody knows what it's been doing.
So military missions,
it's all military
spying, missions. Terrestrial.
It could have been going around the backside of the moon, taking photos for all we know.
Backside of the moon, I forgot about that. And there's been a lot of interesting stuff about the moon come out this week as well. Now, Clint, a question for you. Maybe you'll know, maybe you won't.
Pepperoni, please, with bacon.
With bacon.
What you for? Everybody loves bacon.
On pizza?
Are you joking?
Really?
I can understand if I said pineapple.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, but that's a debate. That's a long debate.
It's not a debate. It's not debatable. You do not put pineapple on a pizza. End of discussion.
Well,
and everybody out there that likes pineapple on pizzas, burn burn.
Hang on a minute. That's how kids get into pizza.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Not in New York, it wasn't.
Okay, this is not New York.
Well,
Tex.
it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is this. Pizza has a couple of things on it. You can put sausage on it. You can have tomato sauce on it. You can have cheese on it. That's it. All right? Everything else is that frou-frou she stuff that nobody really cares about. That is not pizza. Pizza is very simple.
Do you have ham on pizza?
No.
What is going on? What do you mean you don't have ham on pizza? What, shredded ham?
No.
You know, that's like asking for a pizza without cheese.
No. An Appian pizza, in other words.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, I know those.
Everybody loves bacon, Matt. Ask me the question.
I forgot it now.
Good.
No.
Mars,
Pizza.
moon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's
great. We're back again.
The moon. On the moon,
There's no cheese on the moon.
it's made up of cheese.
It's not made up. You wouldn't go there because you don't like it on pizza. But go on.
I love cheese on pizza.
But you just told me you didn't like ham.
That's right.
Would you like tomato paste as well?
Depends on the tomatoes.
Oh, Lord. Moon, please.
All right, look, there have been a lot of really interesting findings lately on the moon. I was going to ask you a question about the moon, and that is more to do with us terrestrially here. The other week, it was sunset, and it was a beautiful sunset here in Mornington Peninsula. The purples, the pinks, the oranges, just beautiful colors as it dispersed. And you're looking west, so the sun has gone down, and all of a sudden you look to the east at about, all right, if west is directly 270 degrees, you would be looking, I would say, northeast at about 40 degrees, and the moon came up.
Okay.
Now, it comes up behind you over your right shoulder, and it's heading up into the sky, and...
I hope so.
Yeah, it is. And then all of a sudden, I'm looking at it, and I'm going, why is the moon, first of all, up just after sunset like that? Now, I know normally they're both on the horizon at the same time, so the sun will set and the moon will rise.
I think this time of the year, with the elliptical orbits between the Earth and the moon around the sun, that at this point in time during the year, the calendar year, that both the Earth and the moon are out wide.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's how it works, so that we can see both at the sort of the same time, kind of.
So it's almost as if you were on one of the poles, and all of a sudden the sun would rise, but it wouldn't rise above a certain level, and then all of a sudden it would be going down again or something like that. It wouldn't quite make it up into the sky.
I think from where we are at this point, we're just off to the side, so we're only getting a side view of it.
Yeah, because this sucker came up and was extremely quick. And all of a sudden you look up and it's there, and then you look up, it's a little bit further, and then before you know it, it was setting again. And I was like, it's really odd. We said this before, and I'll always say this. To me, the moon is an enigma wrapped in a riddle and all that malarkey. It's just absolutely amazing that thing can be up there doing what it does. There have been a lot of findings recently on the moon insofar as structure, and by structure what I mean is rectangles, triangles, looking like old archaeological dig sites.
Things that should not be there.
Things that should not be there. The same thing is going on Mars. There was an interesting little 1.5-minute video from StreetCap1 on YouTube describing what he considered to be the head of a statue that they have recently found in it looks like one of those photos on Mars that was taken where it's just a lot of debris, like a debris field in a sense, with a lot of different rock formations and things like this. But in this rock formation, all of a sudden you see something that is extremely smooth, extremely carved, almost as if a sculptor had gone to work on something like that. And it looked quite fascinating, so I'll put a link to that up on the Facebook page as well, so everybody can take a look and see what was going on. It looks quite out of place in the picture when you zoom in on it. There was another short video I saw where there was another archaeological type object found on Mars, and it looked as if, or the person describing it described what would be considered writing on the object. Now, personally,
Yeah, I wasn't looking at you then when you said that, and you made me look up.
Now, personally, I do not believe I saw anything that reminded me of the letter G, but this person says that it looks like writing to them. I don't necessarily believe it personally, but what I will do, it's not for me, it's for everybody else out there, so I'll put a link up to that on Facebook as well.
I'm going to segue
at that.
Just want to segue for a second.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the alphabet, I saw something really, really interesting during the week. One form of the Japanese written language is almost identical to ancient Hebrew.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, the kanjis?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost identical to Hebrew. Food for thought.
Well, let's think.
Now, was it this year or last year we were talking about the potential of Jesus' final resting place being in Japan?
Japan. Now, wouldn't it be... No, I know where you're going. That would be
I wasn't going there, Matt, but
It popped into your head.
It just popped into my head.
That would be very interesting if that would actually... That's very interesting now that you mention that. Oh, now the brain is ticking and going, wait a minute. You take somebody that was allegedly from Jerusalem or Nazareth, and all of a sudden they're wandering the world, and they end up in an area, and followers are there, and languages are formed, and religious dogma comes around, and all of a sudden, symbols.
Hebrew looks almost identical to Japanese.
Interesting. Very interesting. You got a link for that?
I will look for it. I'll look for it now, and I'll see if I'll see in the next half an hour I can put it on the
really
Facebook page.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see something like that. I love that kind of stuff. Language, letters.
It's all got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, it's all Greek to me sometimes, but yeah, that's a joke. I'm wondering, Hebrew. Well, anyway, this is what was found up on Mars. I will leave it to the guys out there to see whether or not they think they can make letters out, or pictographs for that matter, some sort of a language. I personally could not. The other thing I am going to suggest for people to do is, if you do get into looking at a lot of the sites, and even if you get to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory site and you decide you want to look at some of the old NASA photographs, the mosaics they put up, do yourself a favor. Get yourself a magnifying glass. Because when you send, Clint, you'll know this better than I will, when you start pulling in on a picture on a computer, all of a sudden it gets pixelated.
Very pixelated.
So a lot of times you're better off taking a magnifying glass at a more distant level and trying to look at it that way.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that would make more sense.
Visual depth of perception changes from the eye to a computer screen.
Therefore, we need to invest in things like that if we want to start looking for anomalies out in space, because that's the way it goes. And the other thing that was interesting about that is the size of the telescope you would have to be able to make out some of the things that these guys are trying to say exist on these planets.
It's not the size of the telescope, Matt. It's the magic in it. We'll be back after this break. Beyond 3D.
We are back again with Beyond 3D this week, guys, and speaking of telescopes and the size thereof, if you wanted to spot something this size, and I saw this, I was doing a little bit of research this week, and it basically stated, if you wanted to see, I'll be kind, if you wanted to see a Mack truck sized object on the moon, parked, you would need a telescope the size of Australia in order to be able to see.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Why?
Yes. If you wanted to get right from the Earth, if you wanted to be able to get down to a level where you could make out
a nut and bolt,
the MAC or the nut and bolt in an engine block or something, you would need a telescope that size from Earth, not from orbit, from Earth.
Okay.
Now, obviously, the easiest thing to do is get a ship up there, get the telescope up in orbit, and travel around the thing you can get. But from the Earth, you would need an absolutely massive telescope to be able to see some of these things.
Lucifer is one of the only telescopes at the moment that's powerful enough to go up that far, isn't it?
There's a couple of them, I think.
The one at Mount Shasta?
I don't know about the one at Shasta. I know what's the one in Hawaii? Because Lucifer is the Vatican telescope, and that's in Arizona.
Lucifer is the Vatican telescope.
Yeah,
the more you say it, the more ridiculous it sounds, doesn't it?
That's in Arizona. Then you have the one on Maui at the edge there. That's another real big Hawking telescope as well.
Mauna Kea.
All right, the Mauna Kea telescope, Maui in Hawaii, is another biggie. The Arecibo for radio telescopes, obviously in Puerto Rico, is very big. They're building that, when we were talking about the other week, they're building one out in Western Australia that is supposed to be connected. There was, we mentioned TED 2 last week, did we? The TED Talks that are on YouTube and things like
I
that?
don't remember.
I don't think we did.
I don't remember.
There is a very young lady.
Hang on. Last week. No, we didn't.
There is a young lady that is working in Western Australia, and she is from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
And her name is?
I don't remember. With a PhD in her 20s. And they are working on using computer algorithms to be able to map what an actual black hole looks like, an actual photograph of a black hole. And what they're doing is they are connecting many radio telescopes all around the world, and they're going to collate the data. It's fascinating work when you do that. We tend to think of it more along the mundane lines, where you take a reflector or a refracting scope and you want to physically see with your own eye something in the heavens. What they do is they take radio telescopes and they connect them, which gives them more power, and they are physically looking into the center of the universe to see and photograph black holes. It's fascinating stuff.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not what Hubble's doing at the moment?
Yeah, but Hubble's a I think Hubble's a refractor. No, it's a mirror. I think it's a mirror reflecting. But it's gathering a lot of light, but it has not actually taken a picture of a black hole. No one has in astronomy yet. Believe it or not, they're now trying to. They have computer mock-ups, but they don't have an actual photograph of the event horizon and light being, for lack of a better term, sucked in.
And deployed out.
Yeah.
It's got to come out somewhere.
And so they want to have a picture of it so they can see exactly what it looks like, to see if it's a circle or if it's a different kind of spherical structure other than a circle, more of an anomaly. So we will see. It's been interesting looking at that stuff and seeing what they're trying to do from a scientific standpoint, even though I tend to poo-poo science a lot of times. And the only reason I poo-poo science, guys, is because I do not like the fact that science does not want to acknowledge spirituality.
Or life in the universe.
That too. Or the fact that there were things on the moon and Mars and Venus and every other planet in this solar system at one point or another. But we digress.
It's a control mechanism.
Science is a control mechanism.
Just like religion.
Yes, religion is a control mechanism. But they're also catalysts, and once the catalyst has served its purpose, get rid of it. Move beyond it.
I heard a very, very interesting conversation 2 days ago.
Yep.
In regards to cargo culture. Or cargo cult, I should call it.
Don't know what that is.
Think about World War II.
Okay.
You're a native from Papua New Guinea.
Yep.
You're watching these giant iron birds come out of the sky, present themselves on the ground, and these weird-looking people get out and unload their cargo.
Gotcha.
Of goods and services and bits and pieces and medicines and stuff. You then run back into the jungle and go back to your tribe and tell them that you just watched gods from the sky arrive on giant birds and present all this technology, which to you looks like magic. And you form a religion around it. That's called cargo cult. I was reading a very, very interesting story about that the other day.
Okay.
Now, I just mentioned that it being Papua New Guinea, World War II. Let's just call it let's just say it was a Japanese plane that might have crashed.
Right.
In the New Guinea jungle. Think about ancient Sumeria or ancient Egyptians seeing something coming from the sky and landing and unloading these strange-looking people, and you build a religion around it.
Question. If in this day and age the exact same thing happened, do you think society would form a religion around it?
I think honestly we're evolved enough to know not to. because of the fact that with that story I just shared with everybody then, if you extrapolate that and use a bit of common sense, we're a bit more evolved these days to know that if something looks like magic, it's science that we don't understand.
But not all people.
Yeah, well, we're back to Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest again. If those people can't evolve, there's no room for them.
But is that evolution? Is that true evolution?
Which? Are we talking spiritual evolution, or are we talking physical,
it's not spiritual
physical evolution?
It's not spiritual evolution.
I just wanted to clarify that.
No, I understand. It's not spiritual evolution at all. This is all the mundane and the physical plane.
Correct. So why
would the people here now, let's say this...
I would say no.
Would an evangelical Christian...
Oh, they'd capitalize on it because there could be $1 in it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Of course.
Fair enough. Oh, well. But yeah, I can understand that. If you have never seen something, or you lived a lifestyle that was isolated, insulated, not in any way, shape, or form in touch with the so-called Western world in the United States or in Europe or anything like that, and you were in South America in a tribe, and this happens... Yeah, I mean, there have been archaeological expeditions that have flown over areas of the Amazon, and they have found tribes that they had not seen at all before, meaning that they believe that these tribes have never seen them before. And you would wonder if they look up in the sky and they see something doing a certain formation or turning or flipping or dropping something, how would they react?
Who's to say it hasn't happened to humanity itself many, many times over the millennia, over the centuries,
right,
before we developed our sense of what true science, or a level of science, an understanding of a level of basic science.
Have to think about it. It's one of those contemplating kind of things, because then that makes me go back and try to, where did we...
What about the weapons of the I'm going to try
the Mahabharata?
Mahabharata.
Yeah.
The weapons of the Mahabharata.
Right.
Who's to say that civilization wasn't visited, and what was documented...
Well, the Mahabharata
isn't a recount of them actually viewing real science occurring, or off-world science.
Well, I'd have to think about that as well, because the Mahabharata, which is near and dear to my heart, is a story of the Dwapara Yuga, not the Kali Yuga we're in now, the age before this one. And it is the story of Krishna, which is an incarnation of Vishnu, coming down, and people consider Krishna a god, but this god came down for a specific purpose, and that purpose was to wipe out a race.
And how do you know that Krishna, therefore, wasn't an off-world entity? I'm just throwing up these ideas, Matt. I'm not saying
the
that they're
ideas are really interesting, because I can extrapolate that out. And now we talk about this: the gray aliens. Are they supposedly synthetic beings?
Yes, apparently, allegedly.
And they are. So therefore, they're an avatar of another being.
Let's not push too far ahead with this just yet. Hang on. Let's have a break.
Okay.
We'll be back after this. Beyond 3D.
We're back.
We are back.
We are back. Now, gray aliens.
Okay, so from a lot of eyewitness accounts that has come out over the last couple of years from whistleblowers and people in the field, in the investigative journalistic field, like Lynda, Moulton, Howe, for example, and Dr. Stephen Greer, these people have come out and said anybody who more than likely has had a grey encounter, they've had an encounter with a biological synthetic made entity that was not off-world, not true off-world.
Then question for you, do they say who created it?
It's kind of like think of them as a device. Devices come from factories. Many factories can make the same device. So let's not drop anchor and settle on the fact that one particular civilization grows grey biological entities, but maybe many civilizations have them as a worker force and can grow them as easy as you can bake a loaf of bread in your oven in your kitchen.
Well, they can just be little nuances, like you have your iPhone and you have your Samsung. And
I was thinking of that, but I didn't want to actually use that example. True. But you brought it up, and that was exactly where my headspace was at.
Okay, now back to the Mahabharata and Krishna. Krishna was an incarnation of Vishnu, therefore an avatar.
Yes.
To be used during that time.
Yes.
And when it was reached its use-by date, it died and was drawn back up into its creator.
As most of everything does.
Yeah. So, religion, in and of itself.
If you were of Indian descent,
yes,
and you witnessed one of these incidents in regards to the Mahabharata, who's to say you were not some yogi or some religious person, and then you could document that?
Well, it is documented. The story, there is a being named Sanjaya, and Sanjaya was the recorder. He is telling this story of what is going on during this battle to the blind king.
Okay.
So he's the recording person, so to speak.
Scribe.
Yeah, he's a scribe. And he's describing the nuances. He's describing the different factions of the different families that are fighting. He's describing the weaponry. He is describing the battlefield. He's describing all kinds of artilleries, elephants and things that they were using back then. And I think I said this once before. If you want to know what that battle was like, go watch the Lord of the Rings movie, the first one. And when Sauron comes up and all the armies are lined up and he just starts wiping things out with his sword, with the sword or whatever he was using, and you just see phalanxes of soldiers just flying off into all different directions. Along those lines, massive weaponry. And these weapons, based upon what's going on scientifically, they're stating that they have the radioactive decay of nuclear type weaponry, and it's 5,000 plus years old. It corresponds with the time of the Bronze Age or the Dwapara Yuga. Krishna, an incarnation of Vishnu, comes down specifically to wipe out an entire race of beings to usher in a new age. Personally, I think that has happened so many times it's not even funny. It all depends on what is going on at the time. The so-called creators can have avatars of themselves come down and interact on the different light frequencies and affect change, so to speak.
Who's to say that's not happening right this very minute?
Oh, I think it kind of sort of is happening right this very minute. And we're just waiting to see what the new catalyst or for change is and what will happen this time through. I think what we're finding, and we've said this before, but I'll say it again, when you look, everybody knows this, even when you're a kid, if you study science and astronomy, when you look up into the sky and you see those stars and those planets, you're looking at the past, per se, something that has already happened. When the light from a star reaches the Earth, it is to travel that amount of time, so what we are actually looking at when we see it is something that could have happened 30,000 years ago. That's what it is. So when you look up at the Orion Nebula,
you're seeing it. My silence is my... No, I'm just trying to...
That's what you're looking at.
Wrap my head around it.
When you talk about something being 30,000 light years away, it takes 30,000 years for the light of that thing to emanate here. Therefore, by the time we see it, it does not necessarily mean that it is still existing in what we call the present. It could have already had its time and gone.
Gives a new spin on Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Absolutely.
How I wonder...
What you are.
What you are.
Or what you were. That could be it. And so these are the things. When we look at the sun, I'm trying to remember, I think it's 8 seconds. There's an 8-second delay. So if that puppy up there were to blow up, count to 8, and boom. It'll happen 8 seconds. There's the 8-second delay. Just like in radio, there's a 7-second delay.
So with a solar flare?
Delay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Always a delay there. It takes the light that long to reach us.
8 seconds.
Distance, yeah.
8 seconds.
From there, from the sun, yeah. The distance.
It'd be the same from the moon too.
Less. It's closer.
Hang on, light's light.
No, it's closer.
Okay, yeah, no.
It is. It's closer.
It is closer. I wasn't thinking of distance.
No, it's closer, so that's fine. These are the things that I wax philosophic about quite a bit, and what we're now starting to see is a lot of the scientific community is coming around to that way of thinking, but they're doing it using their terms. They're using their science speak to describe what has been known for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. Hundreds of thousands of years. They're just now describing it in a way that makes sense to them and supports their paradigms, their study, their years of research. If it doesn't meet that criteria, they just can't be bothered with it. And we always used to say this, and I think it's very pertinent even to this day. We started talking about a little bit about health, about breathing, and things along those lines. Those things that you do can affect your body positively. There have been studies that are coming out now, and we're all going to start to see this soon, about medicinal marijuana and the fact that
it can cure just about everything, allegedly.
Allegedly, but it also allegedly gives you, if the average lifespan is, say, 85 years, medicinal marijuana adds 5% more time in this plane of existence to your life.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money there to be lost by Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Unless they market it themselves.
Well, what they'll do is they will allow the researchers and the cutting-edge people to do the research, market everything they need to market, and then what they will do is they will step in with their money and they will purchase the companies and make the money that way. Let the other people do the research, and then you just step in at the right time and take it over. And they will do it in such a way where they will make sure that they can control look, our lifespan, guys, is controlled on this planet right now based upon big pharma, insurance companies, and everything else out there.
Of course it is.
So they will have to add that into their models and their algorithms to make sure that if we're living an extra 6 years, they are not going to be losing any money because of it. So we will see. But that's basically what these guys are doing these days. What are you going to do? Come up with your own stuff. Treat yourself, treat your family, treat your friends. You guys live a good life and expand slowly but surely. And like they say in the movie Contact, small moves.
Beyond 3D.
If you prefer something more mysterious and exotic, there are many efficacious formulae in Hebrew, Greek, Latin, ancient Egyptian, Assyrian, and Persian. Use the one that makes you feel most confident. That's the important thing. The one that kindles magic in your heart. For if you doubt yourself and tremble, various conjurations are offered to the spirits to keep the circle safe from evil.
And that's all we've got time for tonight, Matt. Before we go,
right,
I've got a little clip here I'd like to play out the evening of tonight's show. Bentinho Massaro.
Okay.
No.
I'll say it again. Say it again. Bentinho
Massaro.
And he is going to talk to us about what?
I'm not even going to do this man justice. Let's just play it.
Let's play it.
Let's just play it and say goodnight to everybody.
Fantastic. Guys, take very good care of yourselves. We will catch you next week with another edition of Beyond 3D.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.
That part of that programming, or part of that initial conditioning that we received, was to, in a sense, look up to other beings. And so it is in our conditioning, in our historic genetic conditioning, so to speak, to give away our power to something outside of ourselves, to filter spirituality and life through the filter of worship and religion. And so all the religions that we see today, I dare say that 90% of them, if not 100% of them, have been inspired by direct extraterrestrial contact and supported, that behavior further supported by the history, the earlier conditioning of the programming to receive that in a certain way. So part of why this is important is because it also helps you to gain more understanding of how civilization has become the civilization that it is. It's also important as preparation because it's helpful to be ahead of the curve. It's helpful to be ahead of mainstream. And mainstream will figure this out in the next few years. It will start to become common knowledge. Maybe not everything all at once in the next, say, 2 years, but definitely in the next year, things will open up, things will be disclosed, and from that point onward, it's going to be very hard to have a very slow partial disclosure, meaning that once humanity gets a whiff of something, there will be a large percentage of people curious and open enough to ask the right questions, and by the right numbers, in the right numbers of people. And so there is a disclosure movement happening that is ramping up this very year that will continue in the next, say, decade or so to unveil our true history as people, as a civilization, as a planet Earth. Not only our history, but also our present and our probable futures. Meaning that we have been, our modern civilization has been in contact with extraterrestrial beings, civilizations, consciously, deliberately, at a governmental level and beyond governmental level, or independent governmental level, or unacknowledged governmental level, since about the 30s. And so this has been kept secret. Now, a lot of this, why it's also important to know this, is because there's a lot of truth out there in terms of technology that we do not have access to, and that these particular groups and corporations and alliances do have access to and have had access to for decades. We haven't had to burn fuel or oil in, I think, about 70 years by now, 70, 80 years. And so there is a system going on that is a control system, that is a money system, and that is basically keeping us slaves without calling it that. We're a slave to the system by our own agreement, by our own complacency. I'm not blaming anyone else. In fact, I'm very grateful that all these corporations and that all these entities decided to do all this, because it provides great catalyst for transformation, and I'm very excited about the time to come. And without it, we wouldn't have this catalyst for really standing in our truth and owning what it is we desire to know and who we desire to be as a unified collective people. But I do feel that it is time for a change, and I do feel that it is unfair in a sense, and I do feel that we have to step up to the plate vibrationally and stop being complacent and stop just letting other entities take care of us. By entities I mean like government and even healthcare, that kind of stuff. Like, we're way too reliant on the government, okay? We're way too reliant on something that does not really give a shit, and that doesn't really know how to organize things anyway. And that is so convoluted and so layered that one layer has no idea what the other layer is doing. It's very compartmentalized. It's extremely compartmentalized. And so there's no unison. There is no true representation of the people. There is interest. There is interest in keeping the power of the few. This is not a conspiracy theory, because it's the truth. It's a conspiracy truth. It's conspiracy fact. And so we will find, but I do want you to be aware of certain things so that your context expands itself, and you can start to recognize the things and the events that are going to happen, that are going to be disclosed, the transformation that you'll be seeing in the next few years on planet Earth and in the news. So again, we wouldn't have to use jet engines and rockets, and so it's funny to see things like NASA shooting up rockets, and even Elon Musk with SpaceX, which is sort of like, yay, the next frontier, let's go to Mars, when we're already on Mars, because it's just kind of silly, like the whole thing. So it is time for disclosure. It is time to not let people waste so much effort, so much money, so much resources, and so much planetary abuse in a way, for something that's completely unnecessary by now. I am in touch with, I don't know who here is aware of Corey Good. He is one of the insiders that has come out since a year. And his information so far blows everything else out of the water in terms of detail, in terms of far out crazy. So this might not be a good introduction for for everyone, because this stuff can be very mind-boggling. It can be very upsetting. But if you keep listening to a story, it will start to make sense, and the details will start to fit in with other details that you see evidence of here on Earth.
Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.